What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and it's NFL trade deadline day, and it's also time to set our waivers for week 10 of the fantasy football season. It's a little dry out here, but the value is found in the crumbs, so we're going to talk through about 20 players, all under 50% owned in ESPN leagues. As always, if you enjoy, make sure to get down below, subscribe, leave a like, and the first player we'll talk about here is actually, I was going to be honest, I was going to wait till after the trade deadline passed. You never know what could happen, but this was honestly the biggest move that could happen, and it was that Khalil Herbert, you can see the Bengals logo, he gets moved to the Bengals. This comes after Zach Moss is out indefinitely. He looks like he's going to be headed to IR, and now you have Chase Brown, who's good, but hasn't had a long history in a workhorse role. He had like 30-plus touches last week. I can't imagine they want to give 30-plus touches to Chase Brown every single week, so they bring in Khalil Herbert. Travion Williams was not doing it there. And this is our first priority ad here, all right? Priority ads, these are guys that I'm probably spending like 10% or more of my fab budget on. Khalil Herbert's like right there. I'd go like probably 5 to 10% depending on how down bad you are at running back and how deep your league is. He might be the cream of the crop. He might just be another name on the heap of names. Now, Khalil Herbert is a good player. This is from @RotoStreetWolf. He is 15th, 35th, and 14th in PFF grades over the 2021 to 2023 span, 12th in explosive run rate, and 9th in missed tackles forced per attempt last year. Averages 15.2 fantasy points per game in 13 games with 11 or more carries. He is the handcuff to Chase Brown. He has a little bit of standalone upside, right? There was a stretch there where Zach Moss and Chase Brown were both startable, and we've talked about this in the past, but the Bengals are the perfect fantasy formula here where their offense is top 10 and their defense is like bottom 5. So they just get themselves into shootouts every single week, and Khalil Herbert could really benefit from either a Chase Brown injury or just getting worked into a really good offense. We've seen him produce before. To me, he is a good player, and we'll see how that goes. Now, the next player we'll talk about is also a Bengal. This is still all in my priority ads section here. You have Mike Gesicki. He is somehow only rostered in 10.9% of ESPN leagues. I've been saying since the top 10 lessons learned video last week that if T. Higgins is out, Gesicki needs to be in your lineup, especially if you're down bad at tight end. He is averaging 15 points per game in his games without T. Higgins. That's a 4-game sample. I want to say that's weeks 1 and 2, and then the last 2 weeks. 15 points per game is the tight end 2 in fantasy football behind just George Kittle. So, yes, Cade Otton has all the love. He's owned in like 80% of leagues right now. Gesicki is free. We don't know how long T. Higgins is going to be out for. T. Higgins has a weird situation right now where his contract is up after this year. He's trying to preserve his health. He's not going to rush back from a soft tissue injury here. So Gesicki could be like a tight end 1 for a really nice stretch here. Now, look, it's dry. So usually this is like a lot of running backs, a lot of like high-end guys, but a priority ad, a guy that I would actually spend up on. If you're one of these teams, right? Let's say you have Dak, who just got put on IR. If you have CJ Stroud, who's killing you every week, Caleb Williams, who's killing you every week, and you have one of these quarterbacks that you just can't trust in your lineup every week, I do think I would be aggressive on Drake May. He is, in the 3 games that he's started and finished, at 20 points per game. That would be like a top 6 number among all quarterbacks right now, and he's doing that largely on the ground, which is huge because that's a tendency stat, so something that's going to hold weight the rest of the season because it's just something that he chooses to do. He takes off and runs all the time, which is huge for fantasy football. Gives you a nice floor. Even in a pretty ugly game versus the Titans this week, he gave you 17.7, which you'll definitely take. And if we look at a quarterback through his first 4 starts, remember, his 3rd start, he leaves early because the Jets hit him in the head. And he still is 6th all-time since 2000 in rushing yards through a rookie quarterback's first 4 starts. So pretty crazy. I mean, all of these guys produced in fantasy football. Lamar, Hurts, RG3, Jaden Daniels. People forget, Tim Tebow had like a really magical rookie fantasy season. Deshaun Watson, the same thing. Anthony Richardson, and then Cam Newton, of course, on this list. So a lot of fantasy producers here. And he's just somebody that I would be aggressive on because he's near matchup proof with the rushing, and I think he's only going to get better as he goes. I would rank him today as like a fringe top 12 quarterback rest of season, and he's just hanging out there on waivers. Now, let's get to a couple of other running backs here. We have Ray Davis, we've talked about a bunch. Shout out to Ryan Heath here. He is, I don't know that he'll ever have a standalone role. I mean, maybe he'll work his way into that, but he's really eating into James Cook's role, which means he's a talented player. We've seen what he looks like against the Jets on the Monday Night Football game when James Cook couldn't go, and Ray Davis looked really good. From Ryan Heath here, James Cook posted a 58.8% running back carry share after being above 70% each of his past 3 games. Ray Davis poached a goal line carry in the fourth quarter of a one-score game. And then he also took a dump off 63 yards to the house. So he's really, really good. You can throw him in the RB2 spot if like you're really desperate, if you're really, really desperate. But to me, he's an elite handcuff up there with your, Tyler Algiers, Braylon Allen, Zach Charbonnets of the world, and maybe sits atop of that list. Then we have, we'll talk about Isaiah Guerendo here. Don't be too aggressive. He's right on the fringes of priority. We already have some positive news on McCaffrey, but if you want to bet against the guy that everyone drafted 101 saying that he was healthy, I don't hate it. The fact that he has a calf injury, he makes one wrong cut, he re-aggravates it, and all of a sudden it's Isaiah Guerendo season. So I don't hate it. Jordan Mason's been dealing with these shoulder injuries. Guerendo has looked explosive in his games playing. This is more of a deep league thing. If it's like an 8-man bench, you can definitely put, 5 to 10% on Isaiah Guerendo. And then our last priority ad here. This one is just, it would be my number one priority, but he's not going to be available in your guys' league. Somehow only rostered in 47.8% of ESPN leagues still. He's been an absolute dog. The last 3 weeks, he has given you 675-1, 799-2, 881-0. Those are all amazing fantasy outputs for a guy that you got off of waivers. He is a wide receiver 3 at worst the rest of the way. Now, after the priority ads, let's just get into guys that I would be scooping up off waivers. I will say Cam Akers is our first running back. Now, okay, so first up, we talked priority ads. We'll talk about running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, etc. Akers is right on the fringes. If you want to be aggressive in a deeper league, like a 14-teamer, you absolutely can here. He has just completely relegated Ty Chandler. If you look here from Fantasy Life's utilization report, you have Cam Akers, week 9, 23% of the snaps. Ty Chandler, week 7, week 8, down to 4%, and then week 9, nothing. So they are done with Ty Chandler. He is done. I know a lot of you guys asked me for guys to drop. Ty Chandler, if he's on your roster, you can certainly drop him. And I will say, I don't do drop lists on these videos because I put them over on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart, when I get time to sit down and think about all the guys that I would think about dropping. That's on there with my waiver wire article that will be out after this video is posted. That'll be on patreon.com/Ron Stewart. You can find the description and the comment section down below. Then after Akers, another one is Trey Benson. People have dropped him across the board. He was somebody getting drafted highly over the summer. He is only rostered in 15.5% of ESPN leagues. And we can see here. Now, of course, James Conner got banged up, but that's kind of the theory of the play, is that James Conner is yet to finish out an entire season without missing any time. Now, Amari DiMercato here, 14 snaps. It's not great. He's definitely going to eat into things. But Trey Benson looked good. He scored a touchdown. He looked explosive. And he played 26% of the snaps, his second highest of the season. So he's starting to ascend a little bit here. But again, really just a handcuff. Then we'll talk about Jalen Wright. Fun rookie as well for Miami. And Mostert kind of got sent to the doghouse in this game, which is funny for a veteran. But he fumbled in the third quarter, gets sent to the doghouse, and then has just one touch the rest of the way. And this is a one-score game, crunch time divisional game. Mostert gets one touch from the third quarter on. Jalen Wright actually got 5 of his 6 touches here down the stretch in meaningful, game script. So pretty good. Shout out to John Diggle for that stat. He's somebody, again, just kind of a stash. And then we'll touch on a couple of pretty obvious handcuffs here with Algier, of course, Bijan's handcuff. Same thing with Blake Corum. I cannot stress this enough. I know that he played 3% of the snaps, but he is the RB2 behind Kyren Williams, and that's all that matters. And him actually playing such low snap share means that if Kyren gets hurt, you're going to see Blake Corum play 75% of the snaps and be a league winner down the stretch. So he's someone that absolutely needs to be rostered. And then I'll throw out one last name here for the running backs, who I've been asked about before, Keaton Mitchell. Now's the time to grab him. This isn't somebody you play in the near term, right? Right now, he apparently has, I did not mean to bring that out there. But he apparently has been cleared. He has a chance to play on Thursday. He had a full practice yesterday on Monday. I would not play him, of course, right? He's behind Derrick Henry. Justice Hill's actually been amazing. But this is somebody that was kind of Devon Achane light last year. These are his stats from last year. 8.4 yards per carry on a 47 attempt sample size, second highest graded PFF rusher, a better yards after contact per attempt than Devon Achane, and then 15 missed tackles forced on 47 attempts and 12 10-plus yard carries on 47 attempts. He was Devon Achane light last year. I don't know how he finds his way into the rotation, but you stash him for now, and you just hope something opens up, whether that's an injury to Justice Hill or Derrick Henry, or he plays so good that he leapfrogs Justice Hill, whatever. Keaton Mitchell's a guy that I would be stashing on one of the best offenses in football. Now, going to the wide receiver position, these are guys that I would just be stashing. It's a really weak class of free agent wide receivers here. So I just give me the rookies. This is, of course, a chart I reference all the time from Jack Miller. Do rookie wide receivers get more productive as the season goes on? Yes, they do. Now, has that changed a little bit, right? That's 2018 to 2020. Yes, but really more so for the guys that get on the field early, right? So like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors. I wouldn't expect Malik Neighbors, who's at like 18 points per game right now, to magically be at like 24 down the stretch. But a guy in Ricky Pearsall, who comes into the year with a bullet wound and doesn't really get on the field, you can definitely see how he has a bit of a crescendo here. Or I don't know. I was never in music class, but I think that's how that works. There's no Ayuk. Of course, Debo's going to be back in the mix. McCaffrey will be back in the mix, but you're just betting on rookie talent. He was a first-round pick. We'll kind of see how that shakes out. And then same story here with Xavier Legette, who is the wide receiver 26 in overall scoring. It's tough to do points per game when you do like a 4-game sample. He's the wide receiver 26, probably more of like a wide receiver 3, 4 fringe guy in terms of points per game. But he has 4 touchdowns in his last 6 games. They just traded away John Mingo after trading away Deontay Johnson. He is the wide receiver 1 here. We shall see how that goes. Then we have some other veterans. We have QJ. This is a tough one for me. The Chargers offense has been really good. They're passing the ball more. Quentin Johnson has been balling out. He gave you 5 targets, 4 catches, 118 yards, and a touchdown for 22 PPR points. I just don't know how replicable it is. He's winning a lot of these on broken coverage. You can see here from A.D. Simmons, just kind of breaking down what happened on the play. It's a lot of broken coverage, but he keeps doing it. So I don't mind in deeper leagues grabbing him and, throwing him in the flex when you need to. And then I'll say as well, man, I think that this is going to be one of the hottest ones of the week. I would just say be very careful with Demarcus Robinson. You can see here he has 4 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks. If you look at weeks 1 through 7, he has just 1 game over 10 PPR points, and it's because he scored a touchdown. So you're putting him in your lineup hoping for a touchdown, but he's only scored touchdowns on 3 individual weeks this year. So I don't know. I don't know when I would ever feel comfortable putting Demarcus Robinson in my lineup, but if you're that down bad, you can certainly go for it. He is on kind of a heater right now. But I don't know. Demarcus Robinson, I just don't know if there's anything real there, especially in a managed setting. I don't know when you would actually put him in your lineup. Then we have Demario Douglas here. Right now, pretty much with May starting, Demario Douglas has gone from 6.8 points per game to 9.6. And that 9.6 is only so low because he actually left early for an illness versus the Jaguars in London. If you take that game out, it's more like 11 points per game. So you'll take that as like a flex play. And then you also have Hunter Henry, who's been on an absolute tear here. As we go to the tight ends, you have Hunter Henry, 6.8 points per game with Brissett, 13.1 points per game with Drake May. Those are top 6 tight end numbers. So he's available in like 60% of ESPN leagues. That is a smash. Then we also have Taysom Hill. He is available in less. He's available about 3/4 of ESPN leagues. He had 16 points this week. And it really just comes down to the health of the Saints running backs, right? Jamal Williams was out. Kendra Miller was out. So he gets a big bump in playing time. And really just because the Saints are so injured in general, right? Olave left early. Rashid Shaheed out for the year. They're just kind of plugging him into wherever they need help from. And at the tight end spot, that's actually a decent gig just to kind of get in the end zone, get some touches. If a game happens where Derek Carr goes down and Taysom Hill takes some like gadget snaps at the quarterback, like the range is very wide. He can give you 2 points in a given week, or he can give you 25, but he's not a terrible option. Then we go to our quarterback streamer of the week. We talked about Drake May earlier as like a priority guy. If Drake May's already rostered, give me Daniel Jones, man. He's the QB 18 on the year. He had 24.4 points last week versus Washington, and he gets Carolina this week, which should be an easy matchup. So I don't hate playing Daniel Jones to get like 15-plus fantasy points. I think that is definitely in his wheelhouse. And then, of course, shout out to Subvertidown over on Reddit. This is what I usually like to use for my defensive streamers. He just has a free, here's the projections for the top defenses this week. I wouldn't really read too much into the coloring of this, but in terms of the guys on this list that aren't 50% or higher rostered defenses on ESPN, you have the Bears versus the Patriots, Giants at Panthers, and then Patriots at the Bears as your top 3 defenses to be streamed in Week 10. But that's going to do it for us today. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will have these out on the Patreon with my exact fab budget recommendations for every single player, all of them ranked, all of that good stuff. Patreon.com/Ron Stewart in the description or the comment section down below. But if you can't support there, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one.
Stones, like this froze. Ice cold. Oh,